Yasugi Futaru smiled his way towards his usual table, but when he placed his tray on the table, another one landed on top of it as well. He looked up to see a red-headed girl, and they stared at one another for a moment. They then began to argue about who got to sit at the table. The girl insisted that she got there first, but Futaru told her that he sits there every day. They ended up sitting at the table together. Everyone was shocked to see that Futaru was sitting with someone, a girl nonetheless. They started gossiping again, making the girl's face turn red like a tomato. He looked down and he was stunned to see that her lunch was worth 1,000 yen. How filthy rich could she be? When they started eating, Futaru was studying at the same time. She teased him, assuming that he must be failing since he's studying this hard. But when she saw his scores, she was shocked that he actually got a perfect score. She told him that she was not great at studies and that she envied him. She suggested that he should help her study. Unfortunately, rather than accepting her offer, he told her that she ordered way too much and that she'd gain weight. The girl was instantly infuriated by him, stating how insensitive he was. He simply ignored her rants. Later on, his sister informed him that they can finally pay off their debts since their dad had found a part-time job for him. He was to be the tutor of a daughter of a rich family that recently moved there. They were even paying 5 times the market price. What a deal, right? During class, a new student arrived. Her name was Nakano Itsuki, and he realized that she was the student that he was supposed to tutor. He recalled how he treated her and the things he had said. He tried to greet her when she passed him by, but she clearly still remembered his attitude, so she ignored him. That was how he knew that he really messed up. If she continued to reject him, he would lose his tutoring opportunity. He needed to make it up to her. He tried to find a way to talk to her the whole time he was at school. However, his attempts kept on getting interrupted by 4 other girls who seemed to be Itsuki's friends. One of them followed him around when she returned his exam scores to him. The other assumed that he liked Itsuki, and that's why he seemed to want to talk to her. After school, he even followed Itsuki, hoping that she'd be alone. However, she was still out there with her friends. He was still watching them when one of the girls noticed him lurking. She silently approached him and was about to call support. He begged her not to report him and not to tell her friend. He agreed, however, she told him that Itsuki was not her friend. She left him confused by what she had said. Only when he arrived outside of the building where Itsuki lived did he realize just how rich she was. Before he can enter the building, 2 of the girls who were with Itsuki earlier are blocking his way. One of the girls called him persistent and even mentioned how no one likes him. They told him to go home, but he tried to trick them by saying that he lived there. The other girl believed him. However, the other girl was suspicious, mentioning how he ordered a barbecue combo without beef. She implied that he was either on a diet or was lying about being wealthy enough to live in that building. Left with no other option, he decided to run. He entered the building and saw Itsuki about to ride the elevator. He rushed to reach her, but the elevator door was already closed. He used the stairs instead just so he could catch up with her. He managed to meet her on the right floor, and she instantly demanded to know why he was there. He told her that he was her tutor. She was beyond shocked when she heard this and told him that she refused. He told her that he didn't like it either, but he can't give up. He tried to apologize, but Itsuki simply knelt on the ground in dismay. The elevator opened once again to reveal the girls from earlier, which surprised Futaru. They were shocked to see him there as well. Itsuki explained to him that they had all lived there together since they were quintuplets. Futaru got the shock of his life when he heard this. How will he manage to tutor all 5 of them? Things got even more difficult when none of the girls came to the living room to start the tutoring session. Fortunately, Yatsuba arrived and he recognized her as the one who got a 0 on her exam. She helped him get the rest of the girls from their rooms. He managed to sit all of them in the living room except for Itsuki, who refused to deal with him. However, none of them were paying attention. Miku and Nino were fighting about a sweatshirt, while Ichika was simply reading a magazine. Nino told him that she would study if he eats one of the cookies she baked. He agreed, so he ate the cookies and drank the glass of water she offered. After a while, he ended up passing out. The next thing he knew, he woke up at the back of a taxi with Itsuki at the front seat. They were now in the front of his house. She told him that they tricked him and that he should give up tutoring them. He told her that he couldn't do that. She asked why he was so persistent. However, before he could answer, his little sister went out of the house to greet him. Raya excitedly invited Itsuki inside for dinner, and Itsuki could not refuse her. In the middle of dinner, Raya expressed just how happy she was that her brother now had a part-time job since they can now pay off their debt. Futaru asked Itsuki to just play along so that she doesn't make Raya sad. When she was about to leave, she told him that if he wanted to tutor them, he could do so. However, she could pull it off on her own. He was so happy that he even called her the best. He asked her to gather her siblings for him tomorrow at noon. Futaru gathering the girls in the living room of their house. Since the girls insisted on not having him as their tutor, he asked them to prove it to him. He made them take a test. He told them that anyone who managed to get a score of 50 won't have to talk to him ever again. Itsuki was the first one to accept the challenge. To his surprise, she took out a pair of glasses, proving her seriousness. The girls took the test. All of them were determined to pass. However, he told her that what any one of them can do, the rest can as well. All of them can score 100. What he said to her clearly made an impact, since the next time they had a tutoring session, rather than just having Yatsuba, Miku attended as well. Way to go, Futaru! Tutoring the girls became even more difficult when one of them won't stop meddling. Futaru was more aware that Nino hates him, but why? He tried gathering the girls for the session, and as usual, Yatsuba is enthusiastic to help him. When he went to knock at Nino's door to invite her, she rudely closed the door in his face. All but Nino were gathered in the living room. Itsuki, as usual, was determined to study on her own, so she told them to not mind her. Futaru tried to calm down and convinced himself that 3 was enough for now. However, it became even more complicated when Nino went out of her room and started asking him why he was there. He told himself that he should be nice. So despite being irritated, he asked her if she wanted to join them. As expected, she strongly refused and tried to distract her sisters. She made Yatsuba leave by telling her about a basketball team that needs a member. Nino then reminded Ichika of her work at 2. Ichika instantly jumped up when she remembered. She targeted Itsuki next, telling her to go to a place more quiet like a library. By the end of Nino's manipulation, only Miku is left. When she noticed that Miku and Futaru were about to start studying, she instantly wanted to know when the two of them had been so close. She then teased Miku by saying that she liked a dull-looking back. Futaru told her that her comment was savage and to take it back. However, Miku gave an even more savage comment by saying that Nino is too hung up on looks. Futaru was stunned to witness the two of them arguing. He tried to get them to stop fighting, saying that sisters were not supposed to fight. However, the sisters took notice of his grumbling stomach. To his dismay, the argument ended up being a cooking battle. Poor Futaru was left to wonder why nothing was going his way. Miku and Futaru were still not able to study since it was already late by the end of the competition. Nino's plan worked after all. When he left the building, he realized he left his flashcards inside. He pressed buttons on the girls' floor so he can be let in through their super high-tech door. Miku answered and told him to just come in since she was getting in the shower. While he was in their house, he stumbled upon Nino, who's blow-drying her hair while only wearing a towel. When she asked who was there with her, he realized that she could see him properly. Turns out she usually wears contact lenses because of her bad eyesight. She went near him by the shelves, thinking that he was Miku. She became frustrated when she thought that her sister was ignoring her and that she knocked her hand against the shelves. Suddenly, books started falling and Futaru had no choice but to shove her out of the way. The two of them ended up in a compromising position, with Futaru on top of Nino. Worst of all, Itsuki found them in that position and took a photo of them. To his horror, the sisters had to deliberate about what happened, just like a real trial. Nino wants him banned from entering their house. Miku defended him by saying that she was the one who let him in. The trial ended when Itsuki pointed out that the books around them meant that he tried to shield her from the falling. The matter was settled and Futaru was thankfully proven innocent. However, Nino became upset when Ichika mentioned that the 5 of them used to get along. They watched her run away. Futaru suggested they go after her, but Miku told him to just let her be. He was about to exit the building again when he noticed that Nino was sitting in the corner outside. When she noticed him staring, she told him that she didn't want to see his face anymore. He apologized and started walking away. However, he felt guilty about leaving her there. He sighed and went back. Nino was surprised when he sat on the ground with her. He told her that he was trying to solve a problem before going home. When he heard her mutter that she hates everyone, he asked her if that includes her sisters. He tried making her see the reason that she doesn't really hate her siblings and that she didn't like him because it had always been just the 5 of them. The conversation did not end up as he expected, since she still declared that she was not going to accept him as their tutor. Nothing was really going his way, no matter how much he tried, it seemed. It was Sunday, and it was Futaru's most awaited day off, especially since there was a fireworks festival. He got the whole day to study to his heart's content. All of these changes, of course, when he and his little sister heard a knock on their door. The two of them froze and immediately assumed that it was a loan shark. Futaru carefully opened the door, loudly stating that they hadn't got any money. However, the person he saw outside was not a loan shark, but Itsuki. He then promptly closed the door in her face. He was forced to open it again, though, when she started demanding that he let her in. Turned out she came there to give him his pay. He now has money to take his sister to the arcade, and Raya was overjoyed. Itsuki was forced to come along since she cannot refuse Raya when she asked her. Three of them had a wonderful time at the arcade, and Itsuki saw just how much Futaru wanted to provide for his little sister. When afternoon came, Futaru was exhausted but happy that he was able to fulfill his sister's wish. They were making their way out of the arcade when they bumped into all of Itsuki's siblings. Raya was amazed to see 4 other Itsukis. The girls started asking why they were together. Yotsuba then asked Raya if she wanted to see the fireworks with them. His little sister only had to look at him with her puppy eyes, and he immediately agreed on one condition. The quintuplets had to finish their homework. When they managed to finish their homework, they went to the festival. Futaru observed how excited the sisters were for the event, and he wondered why. Suddenly, Ichika got a call, and she was being mysterious about it. After a while, they were all making their way to the building that Nino rented. When Miku explained to him how important the festival was to them and their mother, with a small smile, he understood what the excitement was all about. Not long after, the sisters along with his little sister started getting distracted. They managed to get separated from one another. Nino looked back and saw that no one was following her to the building she rented out. People started bumping into her, making it hard for her to locate her siblings. She was about to stumble when someone grabbed her hand, preventing her from falling. It was Futaru, and he told her to lead him to the building. She insists that he was not invited. He understood this, he just wanted the sisters to be able to watch fireworks together. So despite her embarrassment, she held onto his sleeves and they started getting out of the crowd. When they arrived at the rooftop, the fireworks had started. However, no one was there with them. Turns out she forgot to tell her sisters the location of the building. They tried contacting the girls, but it was difficult to get reception during those times. Nino managed to get Yotsuba for a while, only for them to find out that Yotsuba and Raya were at the clock tower. Futaru spotted Ichika when he looked down. He told Nino that he would get the others since he knew how important the event was for them. He approached Ichika, however, a strange man blocked him, asking what his relationship was with her. Before he could come up with an answer, they were already gone. While he stood there, shocked that Ichika ignored him, Miku approached him. However, she had trouble walking since someone stepped on her foot. He brought her by the stairs and bandaged her foot. When he stood up, he held his hand to her. With a small smile, she took it, and he helped her stand up. However, 2 women approached them for a survey, assuming that they were a couple. Miku denied it, but the 2 did not believe them since they were still holding hands. They immediately let go. Miku started telling the women that they were just friends, but Futaru insisted that they were just acquaintances. Miku was obviously hurt by his statement, but she was unable to voice out her feelings. Futaru, how can you be so careless? He managed to find Itsuki next, and he started leading her to Miku. He decided to ask her what relationship they have. She told him that they were strangers at most, but she ended up saying that he already knows the answer to his question. She walked away, leaving him confused. To his surprise, someone grabbed him, and it was Ichika. She led him to a dark alley away from other people. What could they possibly do there? The sisters, rather than being with each other for this special day, were in different places while they watched the fireworks. Meanwhile, Ichika and Futaru were still in the dark alley. Ichika was actually just telling him that she can't watch the fireworks because she got a call from work. Before she leaves, she asks why Futaru is going out of his way for them. This made him realize that he shouldn't be doing this indeed. While he was having a breakdown, Ichika was about to leave, but she saw her coworker. She went back to him and told him that she only snuck out. He realized that it was the man with Ichika earlier. When the man approached where they were, she grabbed him by the waist and hugged him. When her coworker looked their way, he only saw a couple having a moment rather than recognizing her. They held each other for a long time, and Futaru was feeling awkward while Ichika's face was as red as a tomato. Ichika wondered if they looked like a couple. She then muttered that they were friends, and she felt like they were doing something bad. Futaru stepped away from her when he heard her. He denied this and told her that he was just a tutor. This visibly offended her, and she exclaimed that he hurt her feelings since she thought they were friends. He then remembered what happened with Miku too. He denied that they were friends as well and had probably hurt her too. He then learned that the coworker that Ichika was hiding from was in fact a cameraman. He assumed that she was working as a camera assistant, and Ichika confirmed this. He told her that they didn't focus on their studies, they would not make it into college. She then asked him why he studies. However, before he can answer, they hear Ichika's coworker grabbing someone else, assuming that the girl was Ichika, when in fact it was Miku. They chased after the 2 to retrieve Miku. She was being dragged by the man at a fast pace, unaware of her injured foot. Ichika and Futaru managed to catch up with them. He grabbed Miku's hand away from the man. The man started complaining and asking what his relation to her was. Futaru answered that he was their partner and that Miku was not Ichika. Only then did the man notice that the real Ichika was actually standing there. It was then revealed that Ichika was an actress and that she had an important audition to attend. That was why she couldn't watch the fireworks with them. She told them to tell the others that she was sorry. They watched her leave with the man, but Miku told him to go after her. He chased them down and he found Ichika at the bottom of the steps. When he approached her, she asked him again why he was going out of his way for them. He told her that they were partners in a cooperative relationship. She told him as well that she was recruited 6 months ago and will be debuting as an actress soon. When her boss's car arrived, she told him that she was going to land that role. Before she left, he told her to stop making fake smiles to hide her feelings. Ichika went to her auditions with the things Futaru said to keep in her mind. She managed to arrive just before it was about to end and was allowed to audition. She blew the judges away with her heartfelt dialogue and expressiveness. When it was over, her boss drove her back to the festival, only that all the spectacles were already over. Futaru was waiting for her and he instantly took her hand. He dragged her and told her that they were going to a park somewhere. Turns out, her sisters were waiting for her to arrive with some store-bought mini fireworks and sparklers. Futaru thanked them for taking care of his little sister, who was already asleep on the park bench. The greatest surprise, however, was when Nino told him that he did a good job. Ichika was so touched by their gesture that she apologized for being the cause of them missing the fireworks show. Nino told her that she doesn't need to apologize since she was at fault as well for not telling them where the building was. One by one, the girls apologized to one another. They enjoyed their time with the fireworks after all, even though it was not in the way they planned. The first greatest challenge for Futaru as a tutor had arrived. It was time for the midterm examinations. He needed to up his game if he wanted the girls to pass. He needed the girls to study, and it was his job to help them. Only 3 girls had attended the tutoring session, which was one more than usual. Rather than just Miku and Yotsuba, Ichika had also joined them. This was great progress. Way to go, Futaru! He reminded them that there was only a week left before the midterm exam, so they have to work hard. He started pointing out their flaws when it came to their quizzes and study habits. However, he was pleasantly surprised to witness Miku studying English, which was her worst subject. She told them that she wanted to try for once. This motivated the other girls to work hard as well. After their session, the 3 girls invited him to join them in getting parfait. He was glad to be invited, but he had to refuse since he had to study. On his way home, Itsuki caught up with him breathlessly. Turns out the girl's father was on the phone with her and wanted to speak with him. When he talked to their dad, he wanted to talk about how the tutoring was going. Worst of all, he emphasized to Futaru that he expected him to step down as the girls' tutor if any of them failed their midterm exams. This horrified him since his job was dependent on the girls' grades. After his conversation with their father, he started convincing Itsuki to accept his help in studying. However, she was steadfast about doing it on her own. Their conversation started offending her, and she walked away soon after. He tried catching up with her to try to persuade her, but they just started arguing. Itsuki swore to never let him teach her ever, while he swore that he would never teach her in return. Futaru, of course, ended up regretting what he said. They were now in the living room. They were taking a break from studying by playing a game. He told them that the break was over after a while, but they were complaining about how tired they were. He wanted to explain to them that his job was at stake if they failed, but before he could do so, Nino joined them. He knew that if she knew that he would get fired if one of them failed, then she would use this to get rid of him. After a while, when it became clear that the girls did not intend to study, Nino started pushing him out of the house. They were still arguing by the door when Ichika suddenly spoke and told them that Futaru promised to stay overnight. They were both shocked by what they had heard. Since he was gonna stay the night, he decided to take a bath. However, he accidentally confessed to Nino his troubles about their father firing him when she pretended to be Itsuki outside of the bathroom. In his desperation to apologize to her, he gave Nino an opportunity to get rid of him. To his horror, the girl opened the door abruptly. It was too late when he realized that it was not Itsuki he was talking to, but Nino, the one that would try to get in his way. He knew that she would not study just to get rid of him, and he was right. When he came out to resume their studying, Nino was determined not to join them and remained focused on her phone. Futaru was dismayed by this and didn't know what he was going to do. Ichika, on the other hand, was trying to get Miku and Futaru to interact since she had a hint of what Miku felt for Futaru. However, the only thing in his head was a plan. He was going to make Nino learn something no matter what. He answered the other sisters' questions about school loudly so that Nino, who was sitting at the dinner table, could hear their conversation. When Miku asked him what type of girl she was, he saw another opportunity to make them study. He told them he would tell them the quality of the type of girl every time one of them finished schoolwork. By the end of it, it was known that the girl he was describing was his sister, as he doesn't really care about dating. Itsuki came down from her room because of their noise, and Ichiko was quick to observe the tension between Futaru and her sister. She asked to talk to him outside and told him that she knew that he had a fight with Itsuki. She told him that the two of them were very similar. She explained to him that she knew her sister was hurting. Futaru patted her head, saying that she really was the eldest sibling since she knew them so well. Miku had offered her room to Futaru during his stay over, so she had slept with Ichika. However, when she went to the bathroom, she forgot that Futaru was in her room and went inside. She fell asleep next to him, which caused much horror to Futaru the next day. The other girls were looking for Miku, especially Yotsuba, when they discovered that she was not in Ichika's bed. Meanwhile, Futaru was having trouble trying to figure out how Miku slept next to him. Things got worse when Itsuki knocked at the door. She was about to ask for help in the upcoming midterms. However, he was so frantic that she didn't discover that Miku was inside the room. He told her to leave, which offended her. Poor Itsuki, who was actually trying to lower her pride. Ichika, Yotsuba, and Futaru went to the library to study there. The girls also wanted to find Miku. Ichika suddenly told him that she left her pencil case and wanted him to get it for her. He was unsure why at first, especially since Yotsuba offered her pens for Ichika to use, but Ichika winked at him. He knew that she wanted him to finally talk to Itsuki. When he arrived at the girls' building, he bumped into Miku, who was about to leave. She tried talking to him about what happened last night, but he figured it would be best if they just forgot about it. He told her that he actually slept in the living room last night and nothing happened. She was thankful for giving them both an alibi. She bid him goodbye as she made her way to the library. When he got inside their house, he saw that Itsuki was dozing off on the table in the middle of studying. She was using Miku headphones, so he had to shake her in order to wake her up. He knew that teaching her would be difficult, so he decided to pretend that he thought she was Miku. Meanwhile, Itsuki was struggling to be true to herself and asked for help from him. She decided to pretend to be Miku, and Futaru played along. He started helping her with her studies. For once, the two of them got along. Even though he was still pretending, he still told her that he was sorry about their fight yesterday. She also apologized to him while they continued to pretend that she was Miku. The two of them sure had a weird way to resolve conflict. The next time they had a sleepover so they could study, all of them worked hard and they all ended up sleeping in the living room. So hard actually that they realized that they were almost late for the midterm examination. They all panicked and rushed to their school. As the most athletic, Yotsuba was the only one who made it in time. The rest of them had to sneak their way past the teacher who was on the lookout for late students. Futaru even ended up getting caught. The quintuplets vowed to do their best in the exam. Each of them worked really hard to get a good mark. However, it was all in vain since each of them only managed to pass a single subject. The girls expected him to teach them their mistakes in the exam. However, Futaru had already accepted that he would be fired. He told them one last time all their flaws and complimented their strengths as well. He gave them tips on how to improve their grades. The girl's father suddenly called, and Futaru prepared himself to talk to him. He asked how the exam was and if the girls passed. Futaru told him to get a better tutor. However, before he can explain why, Nino stole the phone from him. She talked to her father herself and blatantly lied about the result of their exam. She told him that they still needed time to see if he was the right tutor for them. Futaru was confused as to why Nino did it, but she only told him that deceiving their father again would not work the second time, so he better make it happen the second time. The girls rejoiced that he would still be their tutor. Futaru's past as a bad boy was revealed during this episode. Their father told Raya how her brother used to be more like him and wasn't always a study freak. Raya was amazed to see how he used to look. Their dad even mentioned that the photo was taken around the time he met the girl that changed him. He tried to put an end to the conversation, but Raya started asking questions if the girl was his first love. Back at the Nakano residence, Miku was practicing her cooking skills. She made Futaru and Yotsuba taste the croquettes she made. Futaru told her that she liked them, but Yotsuba exclaimed that they were not good. Determined to improve herself, Miku cooked more and made Futaru eat even more. That was how he ended up laying on the floor with an aching stomach. He was regretful that he ate so much just to please Miku. He was there to tutor them, but he was lying helpless there instead. He blamed Yotsuba for always complaining, which made Miku want to cook some more. Yotsuba tells him that it's because she can't lie to her sister. Right then, Itsuki and Nino passed them by and were on their way out. Futaru convinced Yotsuba to do anything just to make them stay since he needed them to study. What he didn't know was that Yotsuba was a terrible liar. Soon enough, she was spouting nonsense about a mysterious disease he got, even going as far as to say that he would die if he moved. However, thanks to his acting skills, Itsuki actually stayed to watch over him. Yotsuba managed to make Nino stay when she said that she can make something for Futaru to make him feel better. To his surprise, Yotsuba managed to convince Yutsuki to think about studying with them from then on by simply being honest. Unfortunately, Nino brought him food, but she tripped and the porridge landed on his face. It was so hot that he got up and moved around. Nino was apologetic until she noticed that he was moving and figured that he was just faking. Despite their efforts, it was just him and Yotsuba again. At school, Yotsuba went to Futaru to inform him of the upcoming school camp. She found him with his back to her, sitting with Miku in the library. When he turned around, he was wearing a blonde wig and a creepy clown mask that had her screaming. Futaru was scared several more times by wearing and moving the mask until the librarian came and scolded them. Turned out he was in charge of the test of courage during camp, and in revenge for his classmates giving such a responsibility, he intended to scare the living daylights out of them. Yotsuba then mentioned the thing that can make them look forward to the camp. It was the legend of the campfire dance. Whereas the couples that were holding hands at the very end of the campfire dance were destined to be with each other. As usual, Futaru was quick to dismiss it as unrealistic and silly. Before they could start studying, Ichika approached them to say that she had filmed that day. She then gave Futaru her email so they could contact one another. She then challenged him to get the other four's emails, otherwise she would show other people the photo she's got of his sleeping face. He instantly went into action. He was able to get Miku's email, and Itsuki needed bribing with his little sister's email address. Nino, on the other hand, needed a little manipulation. He said that if the five of them were talking about something, she was the only one not to know. She then insisted on being included and asked for something to write on. He gave her his student handbook. Yotsuba was then a little confused about whose email was missing, only to realize that it was hers. When he got home, he figured that he should message the girls about their weekend session. However, he realized that Nino's email address was not in his contacts. To his horror, he remembered that Nino wrote her email address in his student handbook, the same student handbook that had his childhood picture. He needed to have it back as soon as possible. He went to the Nakano sisters' residence, and for some reason, he thought that going into Nino's room to ask for the handbook would solve his problems. As expected, she became angry that he went there. She then decided to keep the handbook for a while, but would only give it to him if he helped her pierce her ear. Rather than doing what she wanted, he sneakily stole the handbook from her pocket. She kicked him and he fell. Nino managed to retrieve the handbook and she saw the picture in it. She was immediately besotted by the boy in the photo, even though it was in fact Futaru. He went along with her and told her that the boy was his relative. He wasn't just hiding the fact that it was him in the photo, but also that he had another girl with him in the photo. Yotsuba was going on about the campfire dance again, saying that many people started dating because of it. Futaru, ever the realist, stated how it was all just a waste of time. Yotsuba insisted that people would want to date someone they like, even going as far as asking Miku's opinion about it. Miku merely asked why people date who they like. Ichika, appearing out of nowhere, replied that they do it because they love the person so much. She even insinuated that Miku must know what it felt like, but Miku denied this. Ichika then told Futaru that she had to work that day, so she can't attend study with them. He then noticed that Ichika gave Miku a wig and told her that she was supposed to have a meeting. Futaru became suspicious and followed Miku to where she was going. He watched her enter the girls' bathroom, and to his surprise, rather than Miku, it was Ichika who came out. At first, he was confused. Then he realized that they had switched places. He followed her again until she entered a room. Turns out that it was not actually a meeting, but a guy tricked Ichika into coming there since he wants to ask her to dance with him during the campfire dance. Miku was unsure of what to do since she was, in fact, not Ichika. She told him that she would think about it, but the guy did not take it well. Futaru had to intervene. Miku then told the guy that Futaru already asked her to the dance. Now, Futaru found himself having an impending dance ritual to attend that he didn't believe in. However, the night before they were supposed to leave, Raya became sick. Futaru had to stay with her the whole night since their father had to work at night. When morning came, his father told him to go to school camp since he was home already. He replied that the bus had already left by then. He told his father and little sister that it was okay that he can't go. To their surprise, Itsuki was outside their door. She told Futaru's family that she will be taking him. She led him outside where he was surprised to find the rest of the quintuplets waiting for them. They decided to ditch the bus and use their own car so they could fetch Futaru. He was touched by their action. Unfortunately, it was snowing so hard during their drive there that they were forced to stay at an inn so that they won't get snowed in. To make matters worse, they were supposed to share a room since it was the only available room. The girls were discussing their sleeping situations and how uncomfortable it was that they had Futaru there with them. Futaru, on the other hand, was ecstatic when he saw that his sister had given him a charm bracelet for good luck. They also found out that there was an outdoor bath there, but it was mixed. Nino was especially outraged that not only were they supposed to share a room with Futaru, but they also had to share the bath. Ichika asked her why she assumed that they would go to the bath together. He decided to tease Nino instead about the time she shamelessly walked inside the bathroom while he was there. While the girls were in the bath, Nino started talking about how Futaru was a threat since they were sleeping in the same room with him. Ichika said that she was overreacting and that he was their friend. However, she insisted and asked who would sleep next to him. They came up with an idea. Since no one wants to sleep next to him, then everyone should. They even made sure that they all have similar hairstyles since they thought that he would not lay a finger on them if he doesn't recognize them. Turns out that their worries were not necessary because when they entered the room, Futaru was already peacefully asleep. The next morning, Itsuki had the shock of her life when she saw one of her sisters leaning close to the sleeping Futaru. She was so stricken that she immediately closed the door without knowing which of her sisters it was. They arrived at the school camp finally. Everyone was helping one another from cooking to chopping wood. Yotsuba told Futaru that she would be helping him in the test of courage since he was the only one assigned to it. Even though she was tasked to help in the campfire, she wanted to help him out. When nightfall came, Yotsuba and Futaru were prepared. They dressed up as terrifying creatures to scare off the students that may come their way. Yotsuba was dressed up like a mummy while Futaru was a blonde clown. Lots of screaming was heard throughout the forest thanks to the two of them. The next group to arrive was difficult to scare, however, since it was Ichika and Miku who were not easily scared. Fortunately, the other two sisters were easily scared, namely Itsuki and Nino. Itsuki was so terrified that she ran to a path that leads to a dangerous cliff. Nino had to chase after her, but she got lost herself. She was so terrified that she tripped. Everything changed when a stranger with blonde hair approached her. She was easily smitten by him, stating that she only saw him once in a photo. What she did not know was that it was just Futaru wearing a blonde wig as a part of his costume. He tried to help her stand up, but her skirt accidentally caught on a branch and it ripped. To his surprise, she was acting differently towards him. He realized that it was because she didn't recognize him. He decided to pretend that he was a different person to prevent her from finding out that he was the boy in the photo back then. Suddenly, they heard a terrifying cry around them, and they were instantly scared. In their rush to get away, Nino almost falls from a cliff. He was quick to grab her and take her to safety. However, it was he who would have fallen if not for Nino grabbing his charm bracelet. She was even more attracted to him with his heroic act of saving her. Nino confessed that she was scared and had asked to hold his hand. Instead of doing what she wanted, he gave her his charm bracelet and explained that it was for good luck and would protect her. In a sudden turn of events, she asked him if he would like to be her partner in the dance during the campfire. He was now torn since he still had to dance with Ichika. Before he could respond, they saw a figure approaching them. They became terrified again, but it was pointless since it was just a crying Itsuki who was seemingly lost. Her horrible sense of direction was proven again. Itsuki hugged her sister instantly. They were glad that both of them were now safe. However, when Nino turned around so she could introduce the guy she had met, he was gone. Nino was not discouraged though. When she got back to camp, she was gushing about the guy she met. Meanwhile, Futaru was having a hard time with how he would manage to have to dance with Ichika and Nino at the same time. Futaru then helped Yotsuba with carrying the wood from the shed for the campfire. He was returning the favor since she helped him in the test of courage. She was complaining about how he left her to do all the scaring by herself. Later on, even Ichika came to help out. He saw this as an opportunity to solve his problem with the campfire. Ichika noticed how he was acting out of character by having a conversation with her that was not about studying. She pressed him to tell her what was wrong, and she found out that he doesn't want people hating him. She told him that he can practice conversing with her because she can pretend to be her siblings. She also advised him to just be normal and be nice. When they got back to the shed to retrieve the last remaining wood, he finally told her to call off the dance. When he looked her way, he did not expect a reaction. She was crying. Before he could do anything about it, the other students arrived. so they hid so they wouldn't find them in that situation. Unfortunately, they thought that nobody was in the shed, so they closed the shed, locking them in it. Futaru and Ichika found themselves locked inside the shed. They tried looking for ways to open the door, but it was secured. No matter what they did, they were still stuck there. Ichika was worried about what Miku would think if she found out that she was there with Futaru, especially since she knew how her sister felt for him. After a while, Futaru tried building a fire even though Ichika thought that it was unnecessary. She tried engaging him in conversation, however, he insisted that he was busy. She became worried that it would be awkward with him since she cried earlier when he had told her to call off the dance. Meanwhile, the rest of the Quints were starting to worry about the two of them being missing. Miku instantly figured out that they were together, so she became worried. She was the first to look for them. In the shed, Ichika was still chattering away while Futaru was still frantically trying to start a fire. To get his attention, she told him that she might quit school. This certainly stopped him from what he was doing. She explained that she might take a break from school so she can focus on her career. She needed to be present for all the gigs she was starting to have. She was surprised that rather than stopping her, he supported her. He told her that it was great that he finally found something she wanted to do. While he was encouraging Ichika, he was finally able to light a fire to keep them warm. She then told him that it was fine that they wouldn't dance around the campfire. She only asked that they dance right there around their own campfire. So he agreed. He found out that the reason he didn't want to dance with her outside was that he was embarrassed. He explained to her the legend of the campfire dance and how couples by the end of the dance would live their lives together. That was when Ichika realized how she hurt Miku. She didn't know that the campfire dance was so important to her sister. While she was panicking about what she had done, the log that was leaning against the wall started to fall when she accidentally kicked it. He ran to get her out of the way, and they fell to the ground when she tried to squirm out of his hold. The log ended up damaging the door and triggering the alarm. Water started raining down on them. To make matters worse, the door finally opened to reveal Miku and Itsuki outside. They asked them what they were doing in there in such a position. The two of them started becoming suspicious. The next day, Futaru was not feeling well due to the events yesterday. However, Yotsuba, unaware of his impending illness, convinced him to go skiing with them. Even though Ichika was sick, Itsuki was there to take care of her. She tried to persuade Itsuki to go skiing without her. She refused, but Ichika saw through her. She knew that Itsuki was not ready to face Futaru. She asked Itsuki if she really thought that Futaru was a bad person. Up the mountain, Futaru was getting ready to ski with Yotsuba. Not long after, Miku arrived as well. What was even more surprising was that Ichika arrived. They decided to play tag even though Futaru was at a disadvantage since he doesn't know how to ski. However, he was willing to since he needed to explain to Miku what happened with Ichika since he knows that she misunderstood everything. But before he could talk to her, Miku was quick to avoid him, so he ended up skiing with Ichika. Unfortunately, he ended up knocking himself onto the tree. He was so ashamed for drawing attention to himself that he walked away in embarrassment. However, the bandage given to him by Nino when she thought that he was someone else fell. Nino saw it and she knew that the guy she met yesterday was there. His back was turned so she couldn't see him. When she tried to talk to him, he ran so he could avoid confrontation. However, his luck was running out when he met Yotsuba, who was looking for him since the game was still on. In order to escape them both, he hid inside an igloo, but he was not alone there. Miku was also hiding there. Futaru was about to leave when she said that it was cramped in there, but she stopped him. He decided to stay and they started to converse. Miku was clearly trying to contain her emotions. He started talking about how the five of them may have started as equals, but their efforts must not be ignored. He told her that they should be fair, not equals. At that moment, hearing him say those words changed Miku's perspective. Futaru and Miku ended up having to look for Itsuki since Ichika told them that she was on her own. The first place they checked was the restaurant, since Futaru knew that Itsuki liked to eat. However, she was not there, and Miku told him that it was rude for him to think that she would be there. When it was time for the campfire dance to end, it was not just one person that was holding Futaru's hand after all. Although none of them were aware, all five of them were holding his hands when the countdown ended. Taro woke up in a hospital bed with a different color eye? Yeah, his eyes are golden now. Nino arrived to visit Futaru and checked on his health. Well, at least that was what he thought. Hearing her sister's footsteps, Nino hid behind a perfect hiding spot. Yotsuba, Ichika, and Miku entered the room looking for Nino, and with the power of her green head ribbon, Yotsuba detected Nino's stinky body odor. I meant her perfume. Meanwhile, Ichika, aka the eldest by 5 seconds, handed Futaro some school stuff. Yes, that's the best thing to do when visiting your sick love interest. And revealed in her monologue that she didn't find school boring anymore and that she was postponing her VTubing career to spend more time with Futaro, which is completely reasonable. After the girls left the room, Futaro felt healthy again. Such a simp. Well, I understand him though. Who doesn't feel well instantly after 4 ladies visit to check your condition? Well, again, that's what he thought, because after having a talk and calling the quintuplets idiots with his doctor, who by the way is obviously not Daddy Nakano, Futaro realized that the girls were not actually there to visit him, but to get their seasonal vaccine shots, which was why Nino and Itsuki, remember the girl with the star hair clips? Yes, her, were trying to hide. While being sent back to his room, Futaro caught a glimpse of his doctor who told him, "My girls are not idiots." Oh, Futaro, I tell you, you messed up big time. While he reminisced a distant childhood memory of a young girl, probably one of the Quints, he didn't realize that Yitsuki, my bias, was sitting by his bed. She was just hiding from her sisters so she couldn't get the vax shot. After some small talk and an intense staring contest, Futaro recalled the school trip to Kyoto 5 years ago when he met the young girl in his fuzzy memory. He ended the story with an alien invasion? Yeah, I'm confused too. And then, in a dramatic montage, Futaro saw the resemblance between the young girl and Itsuki. How romantic. Anyway, the siblings arrived and Nino dragged Itsuki to get their flu shot. Our hero is finally discharged from the hospital and returned under the roof of the Nakanos. The doctors obviously did not check Futaru's eyesight because how could he not see the difference between the girls? Or maybe it's because of the new art style. Futaro found failed test papers of one of the sisters, but the names were ripped out. After some detective-esque investigation of the girl in the bathrobe and Futaru's mix-up with everyone's names, Ichika revealed that they are actually sextuplets and have a 6th sister named Mitsumi. No, not really. It's just one of Ichika's antiques in hopes to cover up their failed exams. Get it? Cover up? 'Cause, bathrobe. Never mind. Futaro finally found out who was the culprit after making the Nakanos retake the exam. He initially thought the exam papers were all Ichika's based on her handwriting. However, he later realized that everyone's handwriting style was evident in all the papers in the failed test papers. Yeah, it was everyone who failed the quiz. Out of nowhere and unbothered by the commotion, Itsuki flirted, asked Futaro if he was trying to find out if one of them was the one he met in Kyoto 5 years ago. Futaro thought of this and asked them. No one answered. So he went on insulting them, saying that the girl he met wouldn't be as stupid as they were. Prepare for some angsty moments in this episode, and some revelations.